So let's kind of go through. So then let's go to the next transition, and then we go to Bristol. We hit on Bristol. So explain this, the journey at Bristol City.
Me?
We can start with your dad. We'll start with your dad first. Yeah.
Bristol was great. You know, it was. We'd had the break. The way they introduced Jago was really well done. They had set up the way they'd set up the academy was respectful of education, more so than any other club that I knew. They concentrated their training in evenings after school rather than doing day release, for instance. It wasn't necessary to do the day release. You know, you could push it into the evenings. That was really good. So that filled us with a lot of confidence it was going to work out well. There were quite a few boys that we'd known through over the time that Jago had trained with at Southampton that had ended up at Bristol City.
Okay.
And so we knew a few of the boys that were there when we went in as well. It was local to us. You know, Southampton on a good day was a 2-hour drive away, and
quite long.
And now we were on a outside of rush hour, half an hour drive to the training ground in Bristol. So that was a lot easier for home life, etc. And then, did you ever lose to Southampton? I don't think you ever lost to Southampton either, did you? No.
No.
That was good.
No.
That was really
good.
That must have been sweet.
That's definitely sweet.
And so in terms of that, and kind of going in there, so what age were you when you released from Southampton? Then you started at Bristol City, Jago.
So I was released at under 12, and I went into Bristol City at under 13. So I got released at the end of under 12 season, took the break, and then came in like September, I think, Dad, was it?
Yeah.
Of at Bristol City. So I did have the break, but it was also a quick transition from one to other.
How long was that? How long was the break in between?
It was only the summer, but I joined Bath and Wilts in August, and then I went on a tour. Not really a tour,
I think you joined Bath and Wilts earlier than that, so it would have been July or even June. In June, yeah.
And then I had a tour with them pretty immediately to Cornwall, and it was just like we went surfing, we played some games, we went surfing, we did other stuff. I don't even know, but it was just a lot more fun, and I enjoyed that. And I think because of Bath and Wilts, and because Tim Kirk had also been the academy manager at Bristol City previously, he could give me advice on, like, he knew all the players in my age group, and he could give me advice on like how to act and who to speak to and stuff, and he could put in a good word for me as well. So I think because of Bath and Wilts, it made me more comfortable to go quickly into Bristol City afterwards.
And so do you think, like, it definitely helps a player if he's been released to kind of have that little break in between and kind of find themselves a little bit before they kind of just jump into it again and go through the academy ladder?
It depends. I think it depends. It suited me. It suited me because of how I've been treated at the academy. But I think that I don't want to paint my academy experience as being all bad, because it's the best thing I've ever did. Elite sport is the best thing in the world, because you get paid trips abroad, you go travel all around the country, you test yourself every week. So I definitely think, and also you need to be in an academy in England. The way the system's set up, it's very difficult to get into the academy system if you're outside as you get older. Once you get into the academy system, if you get released, it's much easier to go back in, I think.
Yeah, I would say so. I would agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. And so kind of as you're going into Bristol City, so you go in at under 13, and then how does it go? And what age do you stay at Bristol City till?
So I stayed till last year, till under 18. But I did have a little. At age 16, I got offered a scholarship. After really good years, I was captain under 16, under 15 of the team. And then I got offered a scholarship at 16. But regrettably now, if I'm honest, I turned it down to go to Millfield School for a year. I think, again, I think I'd become. I think I was 16 as well. I think I was 16 and seeing other options. And I've been offered the scholarship at Millfield School as a different route, or the academy, and I took the Millfield route. And then pretty much immediately I knew that it wasn't the right decision. But I have a tendency to, maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing, but I have a tendency to try and finish things through. Right. And so I did the year and hated it because I just felt like I was selling myself short. And then went back into Bristol City for a year and did a year's scholarship and then got released at the end. But the year's scholarship was the best year of my life, 100%, because I was getting paid to play football, which is it's just a joke that that's even a thing. Because.
Right. And what would you say? Do you think if you had stayed there, you think it would have been a different outcome if you were there for the 2 years?
Yes. Yeah.
100%. Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting. And so, do you have a regret there?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I do. I do. I think I would have. It would have. I spoke to the one of the coaches of Bristol City the other day about this decision. I did sort of a similar format with him, and he thinks, and we came to the conclusion that it would have been a lot better if I had someone from the club say, "Why are you doing this?" Because I had a lot of support from the club, because the club's very supportive. But I think at that point in my life, at 16, I think I needed someone to say, "Just stop. Why are you doing this? What do you want?" Because I still wanted to be a pro, and like being a pro, that wasn't the right decision to be a pro. So I think, yeah.
And so when you look at that, James, just being dad, like what do you think of that? Him choosing to go to Millfield, and what was kind of your thought process? Where were you in relation? Kind of like Bristol City. Were you kind of? Did you feel like it was a good thing, or were you kind of more just let him be responsible in that way to make that decision at that age?
This is beyond me here, Nick. This is a fundamental flaw in the academy system.
Right.
When you are a scholar and a paid for scholar, you have to follow an education system set up by the English Football Association.
Right.
Isn't it? The EFA. You have to follow that process. So you have to do a sport BTEC and some coaching certificates, because you're still 16 when into 18. You've got to stay in full-time education. That is what you're allowed to do. For Jago, I don't want to do sport BTEC. I want to do A-levels. I want to do English literature. I want to do psychology. I want to do Spanish. That's what I want to do.
Right.
And we've had a lot of conversations, and the academy head at Bristol City, Gary, is on a task force of 6 clubs trying to sort this issue out, and so that boys that want to do A-levels, want to do something different, can be scholars and have the education. Why does there have to be this? You can have the football career, or you can have an education. Why does that have to be? Honestly, and it is not difficult. And in many ways, this what we've experienced in 2020 surely will accelerate that to happen, because doing online for boys that want to do other things, it could be so easy to do, and and that's what we were talking about before we even went into it. So when Jago was 16, when we were discussing this, we were talking about how he could potentially continue at the club and also do his A levels, and we explored everything that we every option that we could, even down to the thing when Jago was allowed to continue. So whilst he was at Millfield, he was going back and he was still playing for Bristol City, and they were getting him their training, and they were really good at the club. They'd pick him up from Millfield and take him in for training. He would have time off from school to do it, and it's quite a distance between the two schools. Even though that was going on and he was doing the A level, it was still a kind of, well, it was hanging over this. Jago has made a decision not to do what everyone else does. So is he as committed as everybody else? And I come back to that. Why does he have to choose? Why between an education and a football career? It's crazy. It's crazy.
Right.
It's also important to note that.
Sorry.
It's also important to note that I did actually, in my second year, I did do A levels. So when I left Millfield, I didn't just drop my A levels. I went and did the year at Bristol City, but carried on with my A levels. And we paid for a tutor. Obviously, we're in a very fortunate position to be able to pay for a tutor, which I did on the education day, which was Wednesday. So I paid for my tutors then for my A levels, and then they gave me homework to do for the rest of the time, and I came out with good grades, and it was fine. So it is possible to do as well.
Yeah, and I think if we did it again, that the issue is that you couldn't have been a scholar and have done A levels through a tutor and not done the BTEC. Just the way that it is all set up, you weren't able to do that, and that, so that is incredibly frustrating. As a parent then supporting, it was incredibly difficult. So you've got this dream, Jago. You've also want to do A levels. How do we? And we went round and round in circles there, and were never happy with the decision. And would have never been happy with the decision either way. Because, in some ways, you ended up with A levels. You loved doing the A levels that you did. It's a shame, I think, that it disadvantaged your football career at Bristol City. But maybe it's now giving you the opportunity that you've got now. Well, it is giving you the opportunity.
It is. I wouldn't have ended up here without it.
No.
That's why they picked me. Because I could get the academic aid as well as the...
And so if we kind of look at that, Jago, so obviously you've learned from your mistake, and you take ownership for making the decisions that you did. And then, because I know that kind of how we actually met was you actually were, obviously you wanted to interview like an entrepreneur and stuff like that. So you kind of opened your mind up to that. So away from the acting, away from the football. And so has that kind of opened your mind to a lot of things? I know I kind of give you a book list. I'm not sure if you went and got some of the books.
I'm on it.
Okay, so we kind of spoke about that, and that it's kind of it's continued learning. You say that's something that you're taking quite seriously, not just on the football side, but on the other side of off the pitch.
I enjoy it. I do enjoy. I don't think that's the same for every footballer at all, but I do enjoy learning, and also it's teaching me a lot of skills being in school, and at the same time, because I'm we met through networking, which I would never have had to do if I just did the normal route to go for a pro. But I may have done, but my agent, if I had an agent, would have done that for me. So I learned networking, I learned conversation skills. I had to interview you, didn't I, Nick? And I learned essay skills, writing up, and I'd love to do alongside being a professional footballer. Ideally, I'd love to write pieces for the media and say, talk about my experiences, talk about other people's experiences, and being in school has helped me do that 100%.
Because I think as well, like your dad, obviously he comes from a marketing background, and kind of running his own business, so that would have helped you a lot. So you would have had somebody you could really ask other questions of. And I think marketing, I'm a big believer that marketing is one of the greatest skills. I think the art of selling is one of the greatest skills you can actually have. As long as it's a good product, not like these fake gurus, marketing gurus you see on social media, you know what I mean? Ty Lopez's and people like this, you know what I mean? But when you look at that, and so obviously you decided then to go to the United States. What was kind of your logic? And James, what was kind of your thinking in terms of that as like a progression for him?
We just saw it, you've got to kind of encompass this in, Jago was released at the beginning of lockdown 1 in 2020, March 2020. So he couldn't. So we're the club. We're really good at supporting you. This is at Bristol City. We will ordinarily we'd get you playing at lots of different clubs. We think we can find you a professional contract. There was nothing,
Right.
nothing that they could do could offer any opportunity for Jago at that moment.
Right.
Nothing that he could do. But to be honest, and their encouragement was, Jago, you need to go to a low league club and you will work your way up. You need to go and play football, and you will
Right.
rise back up again. That was their belief. And we will help you to go and do that.
Right.
But you could not do that.
Right.
And ordinarily you would have gone out and played, but you could not have done that. And you mentioned there that the networking, Jago. I just Jago, you can. We allowed it for a few weeks, and then it was, Jago, you can wait for things to happen, or you can go out there and make things happen.
Right.
And I gave you 10 minutes on how to use LinkedIn. Now go and do something, and you really took it and made it your own. And that's why we're here talking to you, Nick, and that's why you've got the opportunity to be in the States, and that's why it's you embraced social media, you embraced and just like, this is me, and I'm authentic. And this is what I want to get. And I'm out there to talk to anybody who can help me go and achieve my dream.
Right.
And, I know I'm a proud dad, but there's not many that 18-year-olds that can dust themselves off from their dream being ending and then just like, okay, right, what next then? How am I going to make it happen again?
Mm-hmm. And, it's so interesting, James, when you're saying this, because I remember, obviously my kind of career, kind of came tumbling down because of the troubles and things like that, which I couldn't control. And obviously, Manchester United, they couldn't be seen to get involved in the political situation either. And I remember going, and obviously I went to Linfield, one of the most successful club in Britain, won the most league titles, got to the quarterfinals, Champions League in the 70s. So for a semi-pro club, or semi-pro in England standards, and to kind of go on, and obviously my grandfather played there, and then I was offered a contract by them, very similar to Jago, where you could have waited around, but then I thought, no, I'm better than this, and I did the same thing that Jago did. I went to America. I met a guy, he through networking, he said, listen, if you come over, and then that's how I ended up at University of Maryland. I went there, did a couple of days, and I was thought, no, this isn't for me. Then Colin Clark, who used to play for Northern Ireland, and he got me into I think it was the Virginia Royals. They're like a feeder club, and I went through them, and then he was with the Richmond Kickers, and then obviously I then joined up with DC United 8 months later, literally, and got in with them, and was playing with boys like Bobby Convey and Ryan Nelson used to play for Tottenham and Blackburn. So I got to be around, good professionals. But for me, it was sacrifice, because I had to go and work in a kitchen in DC, in like a French restaurant in Capitol Hill. And I'm like, no, man, this is because if I had stayed in Linfield, I would have got my money. But for me, I wanted to play in the national team because I felt the position I played for Northern Ireland, I could have done that. And I think that you have to sacrifice sometimes to develop and push yourself. You have to do the uncomfortable things. And I think how our universe kind of works is that when that happens or things don't work out the way you planned or the perfect plan you had in your mind, I think that, it's funny because I look at kids now, James, and you can probably tell me this as experience as a dad, is that when kids speak to me or they spoke to me or spoke to my staff and they say, oh, I don't know if I can let my kid do this because of this, and they ask me, do you know what I mean? And I says, no, I don't actually. Could you explain it to me? Because I really don't. I don't get it. Because I had left home when I was 16. And I think that it kind of set me up. It set me up well because I think in football, like the direction Jago's chosen to go on, you've got to grow up quick. And that's the reality. And in fact, I'm dealing with a kid at the minute, and he's playing for the Galaxy. And I said to his agent, I said, if he's going to move to Europe, he needs to grow up. Because this club are going to talk about paying him in excess of €1 million a year. So they have an expectation. They are not going to hold your hand. They're just not. They don't have time to do that. They're a brand. They're a business. You know what I mean? That at the end, you're in a business, and you need to realize that when you get to 18, 19, you know what I mean? That's a business, and you need to be aware of what you're kind of entering into. And I know listening to guys like Simon Jordan, he's on Talk Sport, and I remember he was talking about mental health, and he would always say you have to prepare the boys for the world they're going into, and that they might get a bib thrown at them and told they're not playing. That's the world that you're coming into, and some people, they look at that and they think, oh, I don't know if I could. And that's why I always say why we've kind of created a software so that we don't bring kids very far if we don't believe their personality is going to be suited to this, because it's going to be unfair on them. There's going to be mental health problems down the road, and I also believe it's a moral. I created software because it's a moral responsibility. Does that make sense? To make sure that you do the best for that child at that time. So, but I think it's the rough and tumble. But I also think business is a lot like that at times. It really is. So it's just being aware. And I'm dealing with it at the minute. Things are not always fair. You know what I mean? I've lost money and things, but I also believe football has helped me to deal with those things. It's given me those tools from being a child all the way up. So I can definitely relate to everything that you're saying. So Jago, we'll just kind of go on in terms of, so then obviously you come over to the States. Obviously you're coming in during lockdown, and I remember speaking to you at Christmas time, and you said to me, oh, I'm going back to America. And I thought, oh, you're going to miss Christmas with your family. And then I realized, oh no, this is what you got to do when you're a player, because I haven't been a player for a while, and it's like, and it's you know what I mean? Did that kind of affect you? Like the fact that you miss your family and you wouldn't be able to, you'd have to give up those things in order to make sure you're ready.
Yeah, that was difficult. So I was actually out with my friends, and then Dad called me and said, I think you need to go tomorrow because of this new strand in the UK, and there was loads of countries banning travel. That was on like the 20th, wasn't it, Dad?
Yeah.
Of December, I think. So I then flew the next day. I'm unfortunate to have some family friends here, so it wasn't too bad because I stayed with some really good friends of Dad. So they made it a lot easier, but it was definitely difficult not being with my little brothers and sisters, especially because I've been home for 3 weeks, but they've been at school the whole time, so I hadn't been able to see them that much, and I was just about to be able to see them, and I'm very close. We're very close as a family, so it is difficult, but it's what you had to do. It was that, or maybe not coming over and then being stuck in the UK lockdown and just not doing anything, and so it's what you got to do.
So when you kind of look at that, so you go back over there, and when all of this is happening, and I know we kind of spoke, and I say at Continental Soccer, we said I kind of said to you, let's recommend you to to kind of go out to California as well. So you also used that time, and that wouldn't have happened maybe if you had stayed at home for Christmas, which is quite good. So it's funny how those things kind of work out. How did you? So obviously you went out to California. Tell us.
I went out to Arizona.
Sorry, Arizona. Sorry, correction. Sorry.
Sorry,
they are beside each other, but they're different states. Absolutely. So what's kind of the next journey? I know you went out there, you played in a tournament, but obviously that's not the level you're going to be playing at. What's kind of the next step, kind of for you in terms of your development?
So I'm looking at it. I'm in this college environment at UMEC. And I'm trying to look at it. I have 4 years to get drafted and 4 years to get in a professional environment. And within those 4 years, I need to play on the West Coast in Summer League because it's a really good exposure. I looked it up, and it's 80% of people that get drafted from college played USL2, which is the Summer League. So it's very important that I play there. And especially the one that you introduced me into, Nick, or your friend Rudy. But they've produced countless players. Do you know Zardes?
I know all of those guys.
He played for them, and so that's the aim, is to get there this summer and try and get exposure into LA Galaxy, and so push on from there. So I'm trying to get professional contracts in America, get into the first team in America within the next 4 years, and then possibly move on, or hopefully move on into Europe, and then maybe back to the UK after that.
And I think, well, you look at Jack Harrison, and that's what he's done. He done that, and it's worked out quite well for him. He's probably one of the best left wingers in the Premier League at the minute, if I'm not mistaken. So it's I think he's 24. He's 24, 25 now, and I think that's kind of, I think you're doing a lot of the right things. And I think a lot of even the guys that you're kind of in university with, obviously, literally, they're obviously going to see kind of what we've spoken about and what that journey was actually really about, because you probably haven't went this in depth them on what really goes on, and how it really works. And like I say, I think it's so important for people to realize that, but I think you got to love football enough to accept 100%. These things and the barriers that exist. And if you don't love it, I don't believe you'll want it enough. If you're not willing to sacrifice, and I can definitely relate, man. I think this interview is really going to help a lot of parents, James, and I definitely think, Jago, it's going to help a lot of players who because when they looking at it and they're thinking, what way do I go? And I know Continental Soccer, we've kind of got a new community, which we're actually going to be running. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff on LinkedIn and Facebook. And one of the things we're going to be talking about is people have a lot of questions because there's so many variables, which I'm sure, James, you will agree. And there's no secret recipe, but there is a number of golden rules. And in fact, in the webinar that we've actually done, we'll actually send that to you, Jago, and you can share it with your college friends, because then that way they can come on and then we can actually educate them on what they can expect, because I think it's important for people that don't really know. And in America, you're quite protected. A lot of Americans are guarded. Europe is not like America in the least. It's very much sink or swim in a lot of respects. They're quite gentle. The teams don't get relegated, things like that. So they're not used to that in Europe. You know what I mean? Very much so. And I suppose because America is very much like the soccer culture. What have you noticed about that compared to being in Europe, or when we were in Europe actually, before we left Europe? Well, what would you say? What would you say it was? Yeah, give us an understanding.
Well, I think firstly, I talk a lot more than anyone else on the pitch, because that's a massive part of our game, and especially in the UK. And then I think the dark arts of the game, which is crucial to any, down to the Sunday League darts out of the game in the UK is so important, and they just don't. It's not a big part of the game at all here. So I think more just being streetwise, it's not done enough out here, and really doing what you have to do to win isn't pushed enough here. And I think there's 7 or 8 Europeans. No, sorry, 5 or 6 Europeans in this team, and I think we really have began to introduce the Americans to that side of the game. So hopefully we can have, because you do need to have a little bit of a nasty side to your game, and academy football in the UK definitely teaches you that. So I think that was the main difference.
Yeah, it's so funny because when I first went out to America, and I think Americans are interesting. They have arrogance in other ways, but they're kind of soft in other ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, they're kind of naive or I don't know, ignorant of the fact. And it's interesting because I remember when I first went to DC United, and there was this one guy, and he just didn't like me. He just didn't like me at all. I don't know what his attitude, what his issue was, and I was kind of negotiating with them before I went in the pre-season because I won't get an injury, but I ended up getting an injury anyway. But that's for another time. But anyway, so I'm in there, and then obviously this guy, he didn't like me, and for whatever reason, and he had just came in. I think there was I would call them Miami Fusion. They were called. So they were. That's what they were called in the old league, and so DC United had recruited a lot of these guys from this team. And this guy, he didn't like me whatsoever. And I remember he was probably the only real nasty one. And he said to me, "Oh, do you think because you come from Man United, you're special?" I was like, "Yeah, I do actually. Yeah, I think I'm very special because I says I've worked and I've sacrificed more than you have. You live in America. Everything's been given to you." I says, "I grew up in a war zone. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And life was very, very tough for a lot of people. And a lot of people lost their lives. And I said, I don't think you've grown up in that. I'll be quite honest with you." And I said, so I'm here. And I think it was as well because somebody told him I was going to get paid more than him. So, but I wasn't there for the money. I didn't care for the money. I cared to go out and do well and thrive. So, but I think people, I think Americans aren't used to that. Yeah. They're not used to that type of an, because they're very nice. They're very compliant. But if you look in other American sports, like American football, basketball, they're not compliant. They're super competitive. You know what I mean? So it's in, and I've heard that before. For when I was there, I kind of felt that. You know what I mean? So do you find that challenging, having to deal with that type of an attitude from just in terms of the American culture, soccer wise?
I have to say, well, especially when I went out to Arizona, I really enjoyed it because I could get under people's skin so easily, and I'm a seed.
Tell us about that. How'd you get under their skin?
Oh, there's so many ways, and it's so much fun because Americans will always nibble. So you can. So I do enjoy that part of the game definitely. But I think in terms of in my team in training, I think I struggled initially because I didn't understand that it wasn't part of the culture to be loud and communicating. But I think now we trained the whole of the fall, and we've just started again. So they've now had a long time with me and other Europeans, and I think a lot of them now are starting to be that aggressive. You know, we had a little coming together yesterday in training, and I think that's good because it's like it's part of the game. You know, I'm sure it happened all the time at Man United. It happened all the time at Bristol City, and then you go off the pitch and you're fine again.
Absolutely.
So I think that's good.
Yeah, I mean it's funny, man. When I kind of went over to, I remember when I got to train with the United first team when I was only like 15 at the time. And I remember training, and I remember Sir Alex turned around and he said, he's always very simple, and he said, make sure David Beckham doesn't get past the halfway line. And And I turned around and I was like, oh yeah, it's just David Beckham. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very good player. You know what I mean? And because he was very good, because he hit these long diagonals, and I thought, flipping heck, and I was very, very nervous. And I remember going in, and I just went in and 50-50'd him and made sure I crunched him. I just hammered him, and then he's like, mate, like, what was that all about, mate? You know what I mean? What was that about? And he turns around, and then Roy Keane turns around and he says, "Oh, those Belfast boys, Bex, they're tough lads." and I turned around and I left them on the floor and just gave him a dirty look. And he was like, right, you're right, tough little geezer, aren't you?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you one thing, you love it, you absolutely love it. So yeah, 100%, yeah. Definitely. So you can definitely do this stuff, you know what I mean? And I think in the playing environment, I think your dad probably saw a lot of it, kind of growing up, and I think that's something you can bring in the States. But also, I think it's also something you can communicate with a lot of the guys that you're playing with, because they don't have that experience. They don't know what that's about, and I think you're going to be invaluable to them. Because I think you're a servant leader. You know what I mean? You serve people, you want to help people, and you got a great character. I think you're very mature beyond your years. You know, and I think those are definitely great leadership qualities to possess as a human being. It really is. I sincerely mean that. And I mean, no, but. Yeah, man. So I think the goal is next for you. So you're going to go out to California in the summer. Hopefully, COVID is going to be in a better position by then. And when do you expect to go out there? It's when are you thinking? When's that going to happen?
May 1st, hopefully.
May 1st. Okay.
Yeah. So
that's going to be till when will that be? Will that be just before university starts up again?
Yeah, just before university. So probably last week of July, probably it finishes. Yeah.
Okay.
And then back to university.
And are you, just another question, are you allowed to declare, just so people can understand, can you actually declare for the MLS early, like in your junior year, or do you have to complete all 4 years?
You can declare any year. Any year.
Right. Okay. And what's your university doing? What are they doing to help you to kind of go towards the draft? Like, even if it was like, could you go in like 12 months? 12 months time. Yeah,
definitely. That's okay. My aim. I've got 4 years to get drafted. So within these 4 years, I want to get drafted.
So do you not want to continue? Do you not want to do the full? You just want to do what, like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? What are you thinking?
I want to do. I don't want to get too ahead of myself.
Okay.
Because I think I've been a victim to planning for things and then not happening before. So I think I'm just working right now and trying to get drafted within the next 4 years into the MLS.
Yeah, I would say like 2020 was good, and I'm sure your dad's probably helping you pace yourself so that you don't learn to walk before you can run. And gaining experience, I think that's the best way, because I think that's where you're going to learn. You're going to learn the system as well. I think just give yourself that time, you know. So yeah, but guys, it's been really, really enjoyable. And like I say, guys, any message you may have for Jago or even his dad. You can look out for James Lott. James, where can people hope to find you? Any parents that have any questions and they want to bombard you with how to be better parents and supporting their kids, where can they find you?
Best place for me on social is on LinkedIn. So James Lott, you can look for me on LinkedIn. It comes under my name there. Working Knowledge is my business name as well. So look me up there. Happy to field any questions.
Absolutely. So guys, if you're looking for James, you just go James Lott, and that's LOTT, and reach out to James if you have any questions. And also Jago will be happy to also answer any questions people may have. If you're looking for acting advice, I think he'll probably give you what he can, but I think that'll be the gist of it. And also I'm in the same bracket, so ask me either. So I think that'll be great. And then, like I say, just reach out to Jago. They can find you on LinkedIn. Can they find you on, because you also are on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Instagram and Facebook.
Instagram, Facebook,
and
Jago Lott on all.
And you're usually putting out videos, your training videos and stuff like that, where people can come and see what you're kind of up to, and you kind of post regularly.
Yeah,
Is that you post pretty regularly? Okay. So so everybody can go on and they can follow him, and also to see how Continental Soccer is changing the lives of young players around the globe. Definitely want to help, and you can actually reach out to us, and you don't forget to join the notification squad on YouTube. But our podcast has now been recently moved alongside to been moved to Spotify, but also you reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So guys, this was great, and I look forward to doing some more stuff again. It's going to be great.